Ladies and gentlemen, right behind me is a 2025 Ford Ranger Raptor. My name is Alex LaPerriere, and today I'm going to show you around. And before we begin, I'd like to give a shout out to Willis Ford of Smyrna, Delaware for giving us this Raptor on review. The Ford Raptor that we just reviewed today is available for sale, and I've put their information down below. And we'll start by talking about what exactly does the Raptor name really mean. And aside from being a cool name, it designates off-road performance, high performance off-road capability. And Ford has expanded the Raptor nameplate across a couple of its products. Like, of course, you have the F-150 Raptor where it all began. They developed it as well for the Bronco Raptor, and now this, the Ranger Raptor. And with that, you get tons of off-road capability and some pretty cool features, which we're going to show you now. And we're going to start at the front where we can already see some of those familiar Raptor traits. For example, you have the Ford lettering spanning all the way across the front grille. Right here you have tow hooks, a nice steel bash plate underneath, and of course 33-inch off-road tires with 17-inch beadlock capable rims, making this truck off-road ready. And while we're at the front, we gotta talk about the engine that powers this Ranger Raptor. And before we can do that, we gotta talk about how you open the hood. And you just go in the driver's seat, it's right by your left knee. You flip open this lever, and voila, you get to look at this 3-liter V6 producing 405 horsepower, 430 pound-feet of torque, and well, it sounds pretty good. Take a listen. Just a couple of other things I'd like to mention before we move on to the interior of the Ranger Raptor, and you might have actually seen this in the front, but take a look at this. The Ford logo is black, which is not the navy blue oval that we're all used to seeing, and I actually really like it. I think it adds to the menacing look of this Raptor trimmed Ranger. That's really nice. And the second thing that I want to talk about is actually in the bed, and you can see it's been fully lined with bed liner, which is really nice, and you have a 3-prong household outlet in the back, making it useful if you want to go camping or for whatever else you may need that for. And now moving on to the interior of the Ranger Raptor, where we have a lot to talk about. And the first thing that you're probably noticing is the orange trim peppered all around the interior of this Ranger Raptor. And well, that's actually called Code Orange trim, and that's a Raptor exclusive. It's on all the Raptors, and you can see it all throughout. It's in the climate vents. It's on these gorgeous seats, these bucket seats that are made to keep you in place. You have the Raptor logo right there. You have some Alcantara on the sides and right here down the middle. And while we're on the subject of nice things, let's look at this steering wheel. You have a perforated steering wheel. You have that Code Orange trim right here on the center stripe. You have that same Code Orange color for the stitching in between, and that all feels very nice and very premium, as you would expect from the top of the line model of the Ranger trucks. And just a few more trim related things I'd like to talk about before we get to the screen. And the first is this right here. You have this cloth material that you almost would think is Alcantara until you touch it, and it feels very nice to the touch, but it's actually more of a fake suede, and that was probably a cost-saving strategy Ford had when they were building this truck. And the other thing I want to mention is right below you have this hexagon trim, which looks really nice. I like it a lot, and it looks a lot better than the fake carbon fibers a lot of manufacturers are putting in their performance vehicles. And now moving on to the screen of the Ranger Raptor, and you can see you have this massive screen, 12 inches to be exact, and it's vertically mounted, which is fairly common in trucks nowadays, and it's super responsive as you would expect. You have a bunch of apps here. Of course, you have your Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is available both wired and wireless, whichever you would prefer. And you have this app, which I really love. It's your Sketch app, where I can leave little messages like this one. Now, a couple of other things on the screen that I'd like to mention. Starting off with right here, you have this car button, and these are all your car-related features. I'm going to show you a couple of my favorite things here. When you go to Vehicle, you'll see you have a whole load of options here, but when you go to Wipers, you have something called the Courtesy Wipe. And when you turn on the Courtesy Wipe, whenever you shut off your wipers, it'll do one extra wipe to make sure that you have covered all the water and it's all gone by the time that you're done wiping. And I absolutely love that they included that. I love the name of it. It's just really cool. A little more functional here, we have this right here. This is your camera. You have a 360-degree camera, but you also have all of these options which show different examples around different angles of your camera that you can see, which is really cool, especially this one, which is your tow hitch mount camera right there, which makes it easy to load up. And now we're going to talk about some of the more functional related features of the Ranger Raptor, and we're going to start with the drive modes. They're controlled by this little knob right here, but before we can even do that, we got to talk about the suspension, and that's because the Ranger Raptor has a fully beefed up suspension made for off-road, and it also has live dampening, and all that means is as you change through your drive modes, it also changes how your suspension feels depending on what mode you have activated. And I already hear you asking, well, what drive modes does it have? And well, fear not, I'm going to show you which ones you have. We've got a few to go through, and the first of which is slippery. And then you keep going here, and you see you have tow haul, you have sport, you have normal, you have off-road, you have Baja, my personal favorite for when you want to take your Raptor on the dunes. And then you've got rock crawl, which is really cool. And as you can see, it changes the appearance on your all-electric gauge cluster right here. A really cool feature. Now, a couple of other things in this center area. We're actually going to stay with this dial because it's got a whole lot going on other than just drive modes. For example, all these buttons here actually control what drive settings you have. If you want four-wheel drive high or two-wheel drive high, you control all of that right here. And another thing that you have, it's actually your trailer assist. You can actually turn the car using this little knob when you have a trailer on the back to make it easier to back in or just move with your trailer attached on the back. Now, moving just a little bit over to the left, you see I have this button which has a whole lot going on because you've got rocks, you've got a cactus, you've got hills and snow, and you might be wondering what is going on. And well, this button, when you press it, actually activates your assist, your off-road assist. It's basically an all-you-can-see mode. You can control your tire pressure, you can control your camera, you can activate your front and rear locking differentials if you're on the trail. So it's essentially an off-road button. Now, just a couple of other things here. I want to take a moment to talk about the shifter, which is super cool because it's not one of those spinny things which I think a lot of people find confusing. It's actually a gear lever, and it actually moves and stays where you put it. So when you go and drive, you actually have to pull it back, and it stays there rather like a traditional shifter. And I like that a lot. It's as intuitive as you think it would be, and it's a refreshing change from all these new creative shifters that automakers have been including. A couple of other things right here. You have a nice little holder for your phone. You have a wireless charger right there and some extra space right on the side. And I'd actually like to revisit the steering wheel for a second because there's a whole lot of functionality packed in here. And we're going to start off on the buttons on the right, where you see you have a steering wheel button, a suspension button, and an exhaust button. And those do kind of what you would expect them to do. They allow you to customize your steering feel, your suspension feel, and the sound of your exhaust by pressing these buttons. Now, to the right of those, you actually have an R button, and that's actually your My Mode button. And what that allows you to do is create your own personal drive mode. And it allows you to preset your suspension, your steering, and your exhaust sound. And every time you press and hold that button, it'll actually go ahead and put it right in that mode that you had preset. Moving on to the left here, you have a whole bunch of buttons dedicated to your cruise control, but my personal favorite feature here is the one that says LIM, and what that does is sets your cruise control to whatever the speed limit is, because this car will actually recognize whatever the speed limit is in your area. I find that really cool. And now moving on to the rear of the Ranger Raptor, where you can see Ford did not skimp on the materials back here. You can see even the bench seat here almost has the bucket seat aspects of the front, where you still have that code orange trim, you have the Alcantara trim right here, and so it all feels really nice. And in terms of space, there's a lot of it back here. Plenty of height space and plenty of leg room, especially with how these front bucket seats are made. There's actually an indent right here, so you have plenty of space to lounge around and get nice and comfortable. And to help with the comfort here, Ford has also included a USB port and a USB Type-C, plus a regular 3-prong household outlet right there, making this super practical and nice, even in the back. And so that was your tour of the 2025 Ford Ranger Raptor. Now, this Raptor is an Oxford white and its MSRP is $58,135. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Have a great day and goodbye.